All right, welcome back to the channel. If you guys watched the 106 unboxing that we did on Zev Outdoors, you know that I talked about in that video, once the weather broke here in central Wisconsin, we'd be doing an install video. And just to recap real quick what I talked about in the unboxing video, what we're doing is I bought a 10-inch unit. I've already have a 10 up in the bow and I've got 2 9s at the console, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this straight up mount offset and we're going to put that up front, and we can put 2 graphs on that. What we're going to do is keep the 10 up front for the live scope, but then I'm going to move one of the 9-inch units up there, and the main reason for that is so that up front I have that 9-inch for my waypoints, because I have everything networked. That way when I'm up front, I don't have to keep switching my 10-inch from live scope to map, or even give up screen size by doing the split screen. So that's the plan up front. We're going to take a 9, move that up front with the 10, and then in where this 9 is vacating, we're going to put this 10-inch, and that's going to go up here, and that's going to have all my mapping and that type of stuff on it. That unit, we're going to put the GT54 transducer on, so we're going to have to run that to the back of the boat. I took the old transducer off, and then on the 9-inch now, what I'm going to try this year is I'm going to put a Garmin GT8, and this is just a little skimmer transducer, as you can see. And what I'm hoping on this is that by putting that on the back of the transom, I can get speed readouts on my graphs and don't lose bottom contact on my graphs at speed. So that's what we're up to with this. This transducer works great, but it's really hard to get set up. If you're running, 50, 55 miles an hour, it loses contact on the bottom quite a bit, and you just lose contact, and it quits reading out on your graphs. So that's what we're hoping the GT8 is going to solve. So that's what we're up to today, and we'll take you along as we get a few things done and different steps. We'll show you where we're at. So one thing you're definitely going to need when you do a job like this is some type of a fishing tape. And I've had the metal ones that coil up, and I got this one off of Amazon, and we can put the link, but this one seems to work a little bit better. Number one, it's double-ended, so you don't have to worry about running one way. So if your fish won't go one way, you can try it the other way. So on the Vexus and most boats, there's pieces of conduit running through here. And on this particular boat, it runs from the console back to where the controls come up for the motor. And if you look there, you can see the other end of the green fish. So that's where we're going with the transducer cables. And then we'll run it through the bulkhead into the battery compartment. And we'll kind of walk through this, but you got to really think this through when you're doing it, because everything has to go in a certain order. And you always feed your transducer from the back, so the plug to the unit, not the other way around. So part of what you want to do is make sure when you position the transducer, especially this GT8, because we want to try to get it at speed, is to put it in a place where it's not behind a bunch of turbulence under the hull, so a smooth spot. And then you want to put it low enough so that you can get not all of the transducer, but part of the transducer below the hull, so that it doesn't lose contact with the water. That's the big trick. So the other thing you want to do is just make sure that when you put your screw holes in, you use a good adhesive and that type of stuff. So we're going to get the transducer cable ran up through the hole here, and then we're going to turn our attention to the front of the boat with the straight up mount, because that's where we got to run some cables, and that's the part of the video that I want you guys to see the most. We'll revisit this in a later video to review how the positioning of the GT8 worked and where we put the GT54, and if I was happy with that positioning and everything. So we'll do that in a follow-up video. Okay, so what we need to do before we, obviously before we get our new mounted up here and get all our new stuff, we're gonna have to prep everything. So my old live scope 10-inch was mounted here on the panel. So we're gonna have to take that off, get that all cleaned up. Vexus makes it nice and easy. There's multiple screws around the trolling motor foot pedal tray, and we can lift that whole thing out and access our power, access where we need to run our network cables and everything. So we're gonna go ahead and get this prepped and get it ready to add our straight up mount and move our 9-inch up here. So the first thing we'll do is obviously we'll get all of our cables removed from our 10-inch. So we'll get started. So one thing you guys are going to notice when I'm doing stuff, I use hand tools quite a bit. Not as much loosening stuff, because you'll see I'll grab the drill here and take this stuff out. But just a general comment, when you're doing this stuff, I use stainless steel hardware, and I highly recommend that you spend the extra money and use stainless steel. But the reason I'm using hand tools here is that stainless steel, if you use power tools and you go too fast, it'll gall, which is a fancy word for it. Basically, it welds itself. It seizes up and you can't move it. And at some point, all I'm doing here, guys, is at some point I'll probably order a replacement panel from Vexus. But until I can do that, I had some decals laying around, so I thought I'd put those on the panel just to cover those holes up, because I didn't want holes up there, number one, for moisture to get down behind that panel, and then number two, for visual, so it looks cleaner. All right, we got our old unit off. We got our gimbal that will remount to this unit. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just kind of dry fitting everything and testing how I want to have this set up. Number one, I'm trying to decide, do I want the 10, the lower unit, and the 9, the top unit? And I'm probably going to do that because the 9 and everything will be lower. If I put the 10 up here, it's going to be sticking way up. So the 10 is going to go down here. The 9 is going to go up top. We got our power unit, power RAN for our 9-inch, because that's all we really need up here, that, the network cable. And if it needs to get a transducer, I can pick a transducer up through the network. So that's what makes kind of doing a double mount from a wiring standpoint pretty easy. So now we're just dry fitting, making sure where we want everything. Then we'll go ahead and drill our holes for our riser. There's 3 holes on each side, so we'll go ahead and drill those. We're going to have a little bit of an obstacle there because there's ribs under the deck to reinforce this, so it's not just flat, it has ribs. So depending on where we hit, we may have to get some longer bolts. So right now we're just going to decide where we want this riser, get it mounted, and then go ahead and keep moving forward. So one thing, you want to take your time, measure things. You don't want to get done with a job and have it off center, or get up on the foot pedal and you start fishing and your eye doesn't line up right. For me, that kind of stuff bugs me. So I like to take my time instead of rushing into it. And then we're going to go ahead and pre-drill into the deck. One thing you want to do is grab a shop vac quick, because you get shavings and stuff, and just to keep stuff cleaned up. You don't want those shavings falling down into your foot pedal or anything like that. So we get all that cleaned up. One thing I did find on the Vexus, which actually in the long run was good, you'll see that the drill goes through twice, and that's because there's runners underneath there that support the deck to give it strength. It's not just a single deck, so those required me to go and get longer bolts, and you'll see that I'm feeding those through, and then I have a lock nut on the back, and this is stainless steel bolt. Plus, I put a pretty good size washer on the back. You do not want to just put this upright on your deck with, say, self-tapping screws or something like that, because they'll pull out. That's front of your bow moves a lot, you're hitting waves, it takes a beating. So you want to make sure you use good bolts and good nuts to lock that down, and that gives your whole system a nice solid support. So once we get that all mounted up, then what we're going to do is we want to make sure we get our cables. And if you have to use some cable ties, don't act like a gorilla and cinch them down with a cable tie, but you can organize your cables a little bit and get them underneath the foot pedal or wherever you're putting them, and get all that stuff sorted. And then we're going to take the offset riser from straight up now, and we're just going to kind of loose fit that. And I can't stress enough, guys, when you're doing this, take your time and fit everything up and make sure that everything is where you want it to be before you start drilling holes and making permanent changes to your boat and tightening down all the nuts. All right, well, we finally got things put back together up at the council. We got our riser mounted. I think you could lift the boat with this thing, so that's awesome. Like anything, you just got to be patient, guys. Running the cable back, I already have network cables running through the conduit, so it was tight. And I've got deck lights, and I did something to the deck lights, so now I'm gonna have to troubleshoot that. But hey, that's part of the game when you do this stuff yourself. I always say, not only do you save money, but if you're out on the water or you're on the road and you do all this stuff yourself, you know how to fix it when and if something goes wrong. So anyhow, we've got the straight up mount up here. We've got the offset panel plate just loosely tightened on here, and the cup holder from straight up mounts as well. So now we're going to go ahead and mount up our gimbals for the 9-inch and for the 10-inch, and then we'll put our units on there, and we can adjust this forward and backwards, and we'll see where we want it, and then we'll tighten everything up and we'll be good to go. So we'll go ahead and get that done, and then we'll tighten down up here. We don't have both units on, guys, because the 9-inch is going to run off of my cranking battery. But if you guys watch the channel, you know that I have my Garmin live scope and my 10-inch are all running off of a 32 amp hour 12 volt lithium battery that I have in my rod box. So I just got my boat out of storage, so I don't have that battery hooked up, so that's why this one's not running. But everything's tested, it's running, and it's going to be awesome because I'm going to have my live scope now down on the 10-inch, and I'll have my mapping and my waypoints up on the top, and everything's all networked. So I don't know if I ever wanted to look at side imaging or something on the bottom. Everything's all networked. God, stop sneezing. So everything's networked. So I don't know if I'd want to, but if I ever wanted to look at side imaging down on the 10-inch, I can, and watch my live scope up on the 9, so flip-flop. We got that network cable ran back to the console, and couldn't be happier. This straight up mount, I couldn't be happier. This straight up mount is like rock solid. It's not going anywhere, so really happy about that. And I got my cup holder back, because ever since I had my units up here, it always covered up the cup holder on the Vexus. So I'm excited about being able to have my coffee up here again. So everything always seems to take longer than what you think it's gonna. So we didn't get the 10-inch mounted on the console, and we didn't get the transducers done yet, but once we get that done, we'll show you what that all looks like. That's kind of boring stuff, transducers in the back. I will take a good shot of where I place my transducers, and I'll follow up and let you guys know if my plan to have that smaller GT8 skimmer puck works at keeping me keeping my graphs alive at speed. So unfortunately, with an aluminum boat, you can't have a in-hull transducer. They don't work with that, so that's really your only option if you want to keep reading on your graphs at speed. So thanks for watching, really appreciate it. Stay tuned for the next episode.